Here we are. I'm Sisi Salamanca. I'm the headmaster of the House Coaching Institute, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Manuela, and I would like her to introduce herself first. Manuela, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, how old you are.
Sure. My name is Manuela. I am 27 years old. I am a doctoral student in clinical psychology in the University of Miami. So I live in Miami, Florida. And I am 3 years into the program, and currently I am living in a new place. For 2 years, I was living with another roommate. I was living in another apartment. And then at the start of my third year after COVID, I decided that I wanted a bit of a change. I wanted to live alone. I wanted to change apartments after all the pandemic, kind of get a new fresh start. So I moved into the apartment that I'm in now in, I think it was July of last year. And now, so that was about maybe 9 months ago. Yeah, that's
Wonderful. Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about what was going on then when you moved to a new place for the first time, maybe living alone with no roommates, no family, not anybody else. And what was going on with your room?
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, finding an apartment in Miami with the housing market right now was incredibly difficult. Um, Everything was incredibly expensive, and I had to end up living in a place that at first seemed like it was in a not safe area. So there was a lot of stress surrounding the move. There was a lot of stress surrounding living in this apartment complex that I chose to live in. This was right as COVID was the vaccines were starting to come out. So there was just in general a lot of stress kind of surrounding everything. Since this was the first time I was living alone, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, if I was going to hate it. But I knew that it was something that was important for me to try out sometime in my life. And I do have a dog, so she keeps me really good company. So it's me and my dog. So I knew that I wanted to live alone. What ended up happening is I found this apartment. Um, and what I was not expecting is that it's a studio apartment. So I was thinking I was going to be living in a 1 bedroom, but lo and behold, with seeing the prices of all of the apartments and all of the houses in Miami, Florida, I couldn't afford anything more than a studio apartment, so everything is in one single space in my apartment. And that was very strange for me to get used to. When I first started, I felt really uncomfortable sleeping in the same place that I cooked, which was the same place that I relaxed, which was the same place that I wrote my doctoral thesis. Everything felt really enmeshed in a way that I didn't think was necessarily healthy. And also moving from a 2 bedroom apartment to the studio, I had a lot of furniture. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of just things I saved for 2 years, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to get rid of. So the first month of me being in this apartment was pretty strange. I didn't love the architecture of the building itself. I thought it was this is a brand new building that I live in. It was just developed about a year ago, was the first lease was for the building. So it's a brand new building in Miami. It's very modern. It's very sort of square-like. Everything is very symmetrical. And that threw me off a little bit. But additionally, again, this issue with the studio was very strange because I had all of this furniture that I wasn't sure where to place it, and everything was one single space. And I really felt that I wanted more of a work-life balance, especially after COVID, because everyone was working from home. So not only was this a space, like I mentioned, for me to just be myself and relax, but it was also a place for me to see my therapy patients, and they had to be in this space and to also do my work and to do my classes and everything. So I was pretty overwhelmed with everything that was happening in this space. And that lasted for, but yeah, for the first couple of weeks, maybe even the first couple of months that I was living in this apartment.
And how was your relationship before with decoration? Like, were you used to decorate your spaces, or when you were at home, did you decorate your room? Did you know how to do it, or how was that before?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the girl that I lived with for 2 years prior to being in this apartment, so my roommate for my first 2 years of my program, she was, I mean, she could be an interior designer herself. So she designed all of the apartment. I didn't have to do absolutely anything. So I never even thought about having to do anything like that when I was in my last apartment. And then previously I had lived in, smaller dorms and university settings, things like that, where you kind of just plaster some pictures on the wall and that's it. And you don't really think too much about it because that's just not really what you're thinking about when you live in a dorm. And then prior to that, growing up, my mom is an artist. So she always kind of took the role of decorating and putting everything and making it look really nice. So this was really my first time having to have a whole entire space to myself and really having to decorate it and make it feel my own. But again, this was also the first time that I was living alone and the first time that I was living in a studio. So it was a lot of combinations of firsts that really kind of freaked me out. And I was not sure if this was going to work. I was pretty unhappy with the apartment at first. I really didn't think this was the right place for me. Additionally, and I'll show you guys later, but I do have a view, and the view is of other people in their apartments. So I felt like there was also a sort of a lack of privacy that I was worried about. I just felt that I didn't feel like this apartment was my own, really. I felt like I was kind of living in a hotel. So yeah, it was strange. Yeah.
So you can say that it was kind of overwhelming having the responsibility to make the decisions all by yourself for the first time, and you didn't have who to ask.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This was the first time. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the process. How was it, the house coaching process for you?
Yeah, so I remember meeting with you maybe I don't know, I think it was 9 months ago. And we talked about, really every part of the apartment or the space itself, because again, it's one big space. So we talked about wall number 1, wall number 2, wall number 3, wall number 4, and really looked at what do I like about this wall? What do I not like about this space? What could I potentially do with this space? And at first I was like, where is this going? I'm not sure how this is going to be helpful. I just don't even like the architecture of this space. I don't really even like the building. But I went with it, and slowly I started realizing that there is a possibility for me to start dividing the space in ways that, even though it's not a physical division, at least mentally, I know that there is a space for me to do one thing and a space for me to do the other. But that took me quite a few months to realize. It was not an easy, quick process. It took a lot of moving things all over the place multiple times. And then not to mention, I was also extremely busy with my program. So there would be these lapses of time where I would just have to sort of sit uncomfortably with my space for maybe a month, if that was a month where I had a big deadline coming up. So it really was a slow process, but I'm glad that I never really gave up on it. I really wanted to feel comfortable, not to mention that I signed a 16th month lease. So I wasn't even going to be here for a year. It was going to be a bit longer than that. And I really, in the past, had always felt that I was very comfortable in my apartments and in my space. So I just didn't want to give up on, I'm going to move out. There were these thoughts I had in the beginning of, I'm just going to sublease the apartment and I'm going to give it to somebody else and find a new place, because I'm frustrated with how strange I feel in this space and how sometimes alone, sometimes again, just the studio was strange to me. But, I persisted, and something that really helped me get along was that I have a very best friend who lives just about an hour from here. and she would motivate me to kind of continue making it look the way that I wanted it to look. So following Sisi's advice, and she was saying, well, I know that Sisi told you that it might be cool if we painted a wall, for example, because in the past I had always, I mean, I love color. I've painted my walls in the past, so that is something that I have done. And growing up in my childhood bedroom, I was pretty much in charge of what colors I wanted the walls to be. That was sort of my responsibility. And I remember on 3 separate occasions, first my walls were hot pink when I was really young, then they were neon green, and then they were light blue. And I remember the 3 phases of my life. So having a colored wall to me was kind of symbolic of just my childhood and feeling very cozy at home and stuff. So one day my best friend came and she said, we're painting your wall. And I was like, okay. So we went to Home Depot together, and so this painting right here, this is actually it's stickers. So I don't know if there's paint by sticker or paint by color, and then there's sticker by color. So these are stickers that I put on here myself, each one little bits at a time. And I really liked the color scheme. I wasn't expecting it. So I actually took this painting with me, or this sticker, to Home Depot. And I looked at all of the colors and I thought, I want one of these shades in here to be the color of my wall. So I spent like an hour looking at all of the palettes and looking at all of the colors at Home Depot. And I agreed about one of these in here was the color that I wanted to paint my walls. So I went and I got, like a gallon of paint, and I came back home and I was like, let's do it. So we painted my wall a really, really pretty sort of mint light blue. And I'm very, very happy with it. That was towards the end of, my house coaching process, kind of to finalize it. And then once I did that, I started feeling a lot more comfortable in this space. I started feeling that this really was my space, and it kind of motivated me to really make the space feel my own in other ways as well. So I really sort of established where and what I wanted everything to be in the apartment. So there was a lot of stuff I actually got rid of, which I thought was really healthy. At first, it felt very cluttered. And once my wall was blue, I was like, okay, well, now it actually is starting to look good. I feel motivated to start making the rest of everything look good. And I realized I had a ton of things that at first I purchased specifically for this apartment, thinking it would look good, not realizing that a studio is much smaller than it seems. So it felt really cluttered. It felt really packed. It felt like there was a lot of stuff in here, and that was making me pretty stressed. So I started really just putting stuff in the hallway and putting a free sign on it and saying, like, anyone can take this. And I did that with multiple pieces of furniture, and it was strange because that was something I had purchased and spent money on, but I just knew that it wasn't suiting me and it wasn't really fitting in the space. And then another thing that was really cool is that my mom, as I mentioned, is an artist, and she came across this armoire of sorts. I'll show it to you later. At a Goodwill store. So I think it cost her $20. It was this old dark brown wooden armoire. And she thought it was cute, and I thought it was cute. And I was looking for a place to put a television inside, just because I don't really watch television very frequently. I didn't want it to be in the middle of the space all the time and seeing it all the time. So we got this really cute armoire, and my mom and I actually painted it a very similar color to the wall. So everything started kind of becoming cohesive and starting feeling like it was, in union of sorts. So I do have my blue armoire that looks very similar to my blue wall, which made me feel very happy knowing that my mom and I had painted it. Again, my best friend and I had painted the wall. So kind of bringing other people in and having support helped me feel less alone in the apartment too. And what else is there? Yeah, that was the primary bit of it, was getting rid of a lot of stuff that wasn't really helping me and that wasn't really making the room feel any better for me. And once I started doing that, again, this was a process of maybe 7 or 8 months. This was not a one weekend type thing. This was over the course of many weekends and many sort of standstills that I was able to start feeling comfortable making these decisions about what suited me the most.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about that process that happened within you, because we know that this is decoration, this is interior design, but at the same time things happen to you, like interior movements in yourself that happened during the process. And I think this is important to understand, maybe. So tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, there was a lot of change, I think, inside of me personally. Especially after the pandemic, that to me was a big, big change in how I perceived the world and how I perceived my being in the world. And coming out of the pandemic, which was already a time of like solitude of sorts and just a lot of alone time and a lot of lack of interpersonal relationships and communication, I was feeling pretty strange. I was coming into this place, not to mention again that I was living alone in a studio. So I was feeling really unsure of what I was doing, really uncertain of what I even wanted. I was in a really difficult PhD program, which didn't help at all with my feelings of, self-esteem and self-efficacy. So I got here and I wasn't really sure what I wanted. That was the biggest piece, is I would think of all these things and I would go on Pinterest and look at all of these possibilities for rooms and stuff. And I wasn't really sure what exactly fit my style, I think in part because I had never lived in a studio before. And then I felt like slowly I started becoming part of a community, kind of part of a bigger community. And that really helped me internally to feel like I had the right idea for what I wanted and to trust myself in terms of my thoughts and my likes and my dislikes. And when I say community, I mean the community of this specific building, actually. So what I first thought was kind of like a hotel of sorts, and I felt like it was just strange and I could see my neighbors. I ended up realizing that this is a really lovely community with, I'm Hispanic, and a lot of Hispanic people. Having my dog, I met a lot of really great other dog owners, and having just kind of, again, this big difference between my time in COVID where I'm alone and everyone's kind of isolated, to then being on my own, but at the same time having friends and family come and help me, having my new community here where I felt really good. My neighbors are so sweet. I think that started helping me internally realize, like, I'm kind of cool and I can make decisions and I do know what I'm doing. And that was when I started, again, this was a slow process, but that was when internally I started feeling like I believed in myself and I trusted in myself and in my decisions. And that was the point when I really started making more changes in the space itself and feeling more comfortable making decisions, even if they were big ones, and saying, okay, this is my first time living alone, and that is kind of scary, but accepting it and saying, I'm going to make this as good as I can, and kind of moving forward with it instead of getting stuck and worried about making the wrong choice. And also realizing that everything is impermanent. So even if I put a couch in a corner and I wanted to put it in a different corner, you can always change it. Or if I would have hated the color of the wall, I can always paint over it. So kind of accepting that there's always the possibility for problem solving and for change. And I think that was a learned experience as well, as I started becoming more comfortable in my community and in my space and having more people supporting me as well.
So you're feeling like you belong now to the space and the community, which is the sense of belonging became evident. That's amazing. That's really wonderful. Yeah. So Manuela, before you show us the room, because now we are curious, we want to see, just one last question, and that would be, from what you know about interior design, what you've heard or saw or whatever, how do you see this different, the house coaching process from the traditional interior design that you know?
I loved in the house coaching how it was so much more like I am part of the space. Whereas I think in traditional interior design, you're really just, it almost feels like a fake house, in my opinion, like a model house, something you'd see in a magazine where no one actually lives in it. I mean, in interior design magazines, there's never a person sitting on the couch. It feels very fake to me. And I think the house coaching, that is what it does, is it really brings you into the space itself. And it really says, you are living here. This is not for a magazine and this is not for a TV show. This is your space. And the coaching piece really gets at that. It gets at, who are you? What do you want? What do you not want? And how do you want this space to look? And asking questions that you don't really ask yourself on a daily basis of, again, like, what do you like about this wall and what do you not like about this wall? I don't think that that is necessarily something that interior designers do. They don't really care. They just need the wall to look good. So it felt almost like a therapeutic process. Again, I'm a clinical psychologist in training, so I do know what it feels like to do therapy, to be a therapist. And it felt like I had my own therapist throughout this process and really kind of delving in deep into what I want and what I need my space to look like to feel comfortable and to feel like I am able to accomplish what I need to accomplish on a day-to-day basis and have my space be there for me in that way.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. So give us a tour, please. We want to see.
Okay. All right. So how do I start? Okay. So I will be in the camera. But so here is the window I was talking about. That is where I can see, you know, my neighbors. I can see the pool. And as you can see there, it felt pretty symmetrical. It felt pretty, like cuadriculado is how we would say it in Spanish.
Square.
Yeah, like very squarish. And I didn't really love that. But here is the armoire that I made with my mom.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I knew that something I wanted was a lot of plants and a lot of greenery. That was something very important to me.
So that was dark brown before?
Yes, this was brown before. So this was dark brown. It was not that pretty. So we painted it this color and it ended up looking really good. So then here is my desk. Here we can see the colors of I love water. I've lived in Florida my whole life. So I thought that I would kind of choose some peaceful water sort of paintings to put above my desk, which is, again, I do have sometimes therapy patients who see that, and I felt comfortable with them seeing that. So I wanted it to be a blank wall there with some sort of peaceful colors and images. This was a really neat little desk that I ended up buying that I love. I love that it's made of glass, and I love that it doesn't feel like it takes up a lot of space, which to me was sort of symbolic of, yes, I work, but at the same time, this is not going to be the center of everything. I want to sort of have that balance.
So it's not heavy. It doesn't feel heavy.
It doesn't feel heavy. Yeah. Again, it's a glass desk, which I love. It feels like it's there when it needs to be, but I can sort of ignore it when it's not relevant to me. And that was helpful for me in the deciding of kind of partitioning the space and realizing what it is that I need in different times. So then we have, I mean, as you can see, there's the kitchen, which, is a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And then this.
Oh, the color. I love it.
This is the blue wall that we were talking about.
Oh, so cozy.
And then back to the window. There's my dog sleeping. So the pillows match the blue. I loved kind of the organic feel of still having, I accidentally killed my orchid, which apparently is hard to do. But I do still have my plants here, my dead orchid, but I think it's going to come back to life one day. I love traveling and other cultures. So I do love having my globe here. I do love looking at it when I'm sort of just sitting on my couch.
Mm-hmm.
Having this couch be in, I'm going to put it in an angle that's better. So it's not exactly against a certain wall. It's kind of in the middle, and I have some space in the corner in the back. That seems like a small change, but I actually really love doing that. For some reason, it felt much more organic to me. It felt like I didn't have to pick a wall. And that was something that I did recently that I actually ended up really loving.
It looks amazing. It looks really cozy.
It's very cozy. So that is where, and then the armoire is across from the couch, and that's where the TV is. But again, it's hidden, which I like, so I don't have to be looking at it all day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Then as well, there was sort of a lot of, again, stuff that I need to keep and clutter. So I bought this cute little Pottery Barn chest piece, and I'm able to keep everything in there in a very organized way, so I don't feel like I have sort of stuff all over the place. Yeah, and then just decorating it with stuff that I thought was meaningful to me. So that that poster right there was from a really special concert that I went to with one of my best friends in Colorado. So I love having that at the very front. I have this rainbow. I love rainbows. I love how colorful they are. I knew from the very, very beginning, actually, that I wanted to have something with a rainbow involved. So I was very happy to find this piece. That was one of my more recent findings, and I think it really puts the room really well together because the rainbow is one of the colors, and there is the same color as the wall. So I felt like it really combined everything really neatly.
And that's your color palette. Because I remember from your Pinterest, that's exactly your color palette.
Yeah, and then we have the little orange lamp, which fits the palette. All of it kind of blends together really nicely, which I think helps with the feeling of, you know, coziness. And
it's earthy, but it's light and it's calm. It's just like what makes you feel good. Definitely.
Exactly. So yeah, I was very, very happy with.
That's really beautiful, Manuela. Congrats. I'm so happy. Just one more question, because I know this is something very important for people, and I forgot to ask you. It's about money, because you are a student. You are on a student budget, and how expensive was it, and how affordable for you, or how does that work with house coaching?
Yeah, so I knew off the bat that I do not have a big budget. I am a student, and I definitely don't have the money to be purchasing any sort of fancy furniture on any fancy website. So I think that was part of the process that took me a little bit longer, was having the patience to wait and say the right things will come, and the right things will be the affordable price. It'll be something that I can work with. So a lot of what's in here were things that like I mentioned, the armoire was something that we found at a Goodwill for like $20. The rainbow painting was something that I found at a random store for like $10. So I really took the time to wait until the right things kind of came my way. So I don't feel like this was a big expense financially at all. I feel very comfortable with the amount of money I spent. For example, the couch, that was something that couch has been in my family for many, many years. It has a pretty special value to me. It used to be my grandmother's couch. My grandmother was a therapist, so having that couch in here is really nice. So I didn't, that was something that in the beginning was like, oh, this is just a sort of old couch, and kind of changing your perspective and your cognitions about what this couch means was helpful. So I didn't have to, go and buy another couch. Yeah, everything in here I felt comfortable purchasing. Nothing in here was this dramatic purchase. I definitely think it's possible to do the house coaching process and feel like you can stick to a budget. Absolutely, because at the end of the day, again, this is what separates it from interior design, where you're not just putting things in the room because they look nice. You're putting things in the room because they make you feel a certain way instead. So you don't need a ton of money to feel a certain way. You just need it to feel right. So yeah, that was not an issue, thankfully.
That's beautiful. Manuela, this was amazing. This was wonderful. It was a pleasure to do this process with you, and thank you so much for participating, for opening up yourself to it. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Kiss.
Kisses.
Bye.